Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network is excited to present Divine Science Everywhere, Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Come explore a modern experience of divine science with Reverend Joy Fletcher, Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and Bishop Durrell Watkins. Join us as we open our eyes to divine science everywhere we look. Fridays on New Thought Media Network.
Welcome to Divine Science Everywhere. We're so happy that you're with us today. I'm Reverend Joy Fletcher, and I express ministry and divine science in many ways, and one of them as the president of the Divine Science Ministers Association, and I'm also a member of other New Thought organizations. So welcome.
And I'm Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and you will find me here on New Thought Media Networks, 4 p.m. Central, Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, for helping out Divine Science Everywhere. Then later on in the evening, so you can find me 8 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Central on, again, New Thought Media Network, as I co-host with Reverend Michael Mangus, the Friday Fireside Chat. And in case you aren't aware, well, you're probably not aware because you just tuned in, Bishop Durrell cannot be with us today. So we snagged his husband, Bishop Robert, and he's going to lend his voice to our topic today.
I'm glad to be with you both today. Glad to be here on this live opportunity. I'm Robert Griffin, the Executive Minister at the Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm also an Auxiliary Bishop with the Global Justice Institute. And today I'm filling in. So you get me live and raw in all the ways it might come. So I'll be with you both today.
Well, it's good to have you with us. And unfortunately, Durrell is going to miss his favorite part of our show, because this is the part where Reverend Joy takes us on a centering moment.
Thank you. Thank you. So today, I encourage you to set aside any sense of busyness or what appeared to be a disruption in your life, and stop right now and acknowledge the one presence and the one power, all that is, omnipresence, which is in all, through all, and as all. So settling into this awareness of the one presence and the one power, one life, we acknowledge that divine science and new thought teaches that God is not distant. God doesn't have favorites. God is not selective. God is omnipresence. If this one presence is in all, then there is no place where spirit is absent. If the one presence is through all, divine life is moving even within conditions that appear fractured. If the one presence is in all, then every single person has inherently divine dignity. And this is regardless of circumstance, history, or viewpoint. Therefore, we cannot spiritually justify any injustice, because harm to one is harm to the one life. We are all interconnected in this one life. We live in this visible effect: social tension, division, systems under strain. We in New Thought do not deny this, but rather we stand firm, embrace it, and face it, and reinterpret it. For we know that the effect is the outpicturing of collective consciousness, which is accumulated belief systems, fear, courage, prejudice, and awakening. But the effect is not sovereign. Cause is, and spirit is cause. Consciousness is creative, and divine law responds to this cause, this creativity. So we don't ignore the effect. We stand in it. We name it. We respond to it. But we do not bow to it or give our power to it. During this time of unrest and during Black History Month, we remember with respect and appreciation those who stood in unjust effect and yet live from that divine impulse within them, this divine cause. We remember Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, who built Christ Universal Temple at a time when racism and sexism were not subtle barriers. She didn't deny the effect, but rather she transcended it by standing and living in her spiritual authority. She declared, "You must learn to stand in your own God-given authority and know that you are worthy of everything." This, my friends, is living from cause. This is refusing to let conditions dictate identity. And she also taught, when you change your mind, you change your world. And she wasn't just talking about your mood, but your world. What we hold in our awareness contributes to the field we all live in. It is our responsibility, our spiritual responsibility, not only to ourselves, but one another. For as I be lifted up, all shall be lifted up. As we change our mind toward dignity, toward clarity, toward justice, we participate, we co-create a better world for everyone. And because there is one life in all, through all, as all. What we do affects everyone. Our consciousness affects everyone. We are not isolated. There is no such thing as an isolated thought or isolated harm or isolated healing. As spiritual beings, let us recognize and act as if we know that if we inflame division, all feels it, including ourselves. If we embody clarity, everyone feels this and is embodied by it. If we remain silent when courage is required, silence has consequence. So right now, let us stand firm and face all that is asking for attention in order to transform it, to bring light to it, to lift up in consciousness all. It means opening our consciousness wider than any appearance of turbulence. It means that we engage in facing injustice without becoming unjust ourselves. We confront what appears to be hateful by not being hateful ourselves. We can stand firm without surrendering compassion. So let us refuse to dehumanize, because the same divine presence expressing as us is expressing everywhere. Taking a breath in all, through all, as all. Remember that the one life is expressing as you, the one life expressing as those you agree with, and also the one life expresses through those that you are challenged by and that you challenge. But yet, we are the expressions of the one life as participants. So today we stand. We act with dignity, with accountability, with courage, with love. In all, through all, as all. And we remember the steady declaration of Nona Brooks. There is but one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. One presence, one power, one love, one life. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Joy, for that. This is the time of the program where Bishop Durrell comes on and talks about our New Thought luminaries. Well, I will be taking over for that today, and we have three and a couple of honorable mentions as well. I'm going to start with Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. She was born in Centerville, Alabama in 1920, and she was an influential minister and teacher in the New Thought movement, often referred to as the First Lady of New Thought. Now, she started out as a school teacher in Mississippi and Chicago, and after learning that she had an incurable disease in 1952, she enrolled in the Unity School of Christianity in Lee Summit, Missouri, where she received her teaching certificate and became an ordained minister. Now, here's where I had a little bit of trouble with the history of this, because as I was doing my research, it says that Reverend Coleman was the third Black student ordained as a unity minister in 1956. So she was ordained in 1956, but was she the third minister total or the third minister for that year? I suspect it was the third minister for that year, because I learned about Helen Moulton. She's notable for being one of the first two African Americans ordained in unity, and for founding Christ Unity Church in Los Angeles. And she was ordained in 1952 at the age of 70. And she was joined by Reverend Corrine Johnson Smith, who they called Connie. She was also ordained by Unity in 1952. And then finally, Henrietta Gordon was the third African American minister ordained in Unity in 1953. So we've got three who actually preceded Reverend Dr. Coleman. Now, while they were students at Unity, like all the Black students at that time, Dr. Coleman was told she was not allowed to live on campus. And so for 2 years, she commuted 15 miles each way to the YMCA in Kansas City before the campus was desegregated. She founded Christ Unity Temple and later became Christ Universal Temple. She served as president of the Association of Unity Churches and decided to end her affiliation with the AUC, not because of differences in belief, but because she disagreed with the way that the unity principles were being applied in certain situations. So in 1974, Johnny Coleman founded the Universal Foundation for Better Living, which is described as an international association of Bible-based New Thought Christian churches, centers, and study groups. And UFBL also operates the Johnny Coleman Institute, which is roughly equivalent to Unity's SEED program, the Spiritual Education and Enrichment Program. UFBL also maintains the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, which offers degrees and preparation for ordination in the ministry. Her book, Open Your Mind and Be Healed, was published in 1997, and it gives her personal story and an introduction to the universal principles of healing. And she made her transition in Chicago in 2014 at the age of 94. Our second luminary is Reverend Dr. Mary A. Tumpkin, and she was affectionately known as Reverend Mary. Founding minister of the Universal Truth Center for Better Living in Miami Gardens, Florida. She founded that in 1982. So for over 30 years, Reverend Mary, as she was known, carried out UTC's mission to empower people and develop their potential by awakening their divine nature. In 1995, Johnny Coleman appointed Reverend Mary to succeed her as the second president of the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And under her leadership, Reverend Mary established the UFBL's teaching arm, the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, and then also expanded the organization's presence into the Caribbean. She was an acclaimed teacher, a Bible scholar, and author. She held a doctorate of ministry from Florida Center for Theological Studies, and she lectured throughout the United States as well as in England and Canada and South America and the Caribbean. And she was known for a powerful, energetic, and often humorous preaching style, and her ability to express the message of Christ in a relevant, practical, and accessible way. And in addition to UFBL, Reverend Mary served on the board of directors for the Society for the Study of Metaphysical Religion, the International New Thought Alliance, the Florida Center for Theological Studies, and the West Star Institute. And Reverend Mary made her transition in 2013. And finally, I'd like to mention Bishop Barbara L. King. She was born in Houston in 1930. She earned a bachelor's degree in sociology, and she had a Master of Social Work, an MSW degree. I've got one of those, so I feel like I was in good company. She began following her dream of becoming a minister while working as the program administrator where? Christ Universal Temple in Chicago under Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. Now, Dr. Barbara, as she was affectionately known, was the founder of Hillside International Truth Center Incorporated in Atlanta, and she founded that in 1971. She started out with 12 folks meeting in her home, and now they have thousands of members and supporters all over the world. She earned a Doctor of Ministry degree, as well as several honorary doctorates. She authored 10 books, hosted her own TV program, A New Thought, A New Life, and she also appeared as a guest on shows produced by Oprah Winfrey and Tavis Smiley. In the New Thought movement, she was awarded the three highest honors: the International New Thought Alliance Life Achievement Award, the Ernest Holmes Religious Science Award, and Unity's The Light of God Expressing Award. In 2001, Dr. Barber received the highest honor ever bestowed upon a woman when she was installed as the first female chief of the Ashanti tribe in Ghana, West Africa. And in honor of and recognition of nearly 50 years of service to thousands at Hillside and throughout the world, the International College of Bishops consecrated Dr. Barber to the sacred office of bishop in 2010, and she made history as the first New Thought minister to receive that honor. And Dr. Barber made her transition in 2020 at the age of 90. And so we looked at three awesome African American New Thought luminaries.
I will add to that, Jeff. I had the honor of meeting two of them, Bishop Barber and also Dr. Tompkin. Dr. Tompkin was a trustee at the Florida Center for Theological Studies when I graduated from there with my doctorate of ministry here in the area. So I feel myself included in a great cloud of witnesses between all three of them, not having ever met Dr. Coleman, but knew of her in Chicago. And she made an impression on my life. And I'll say more about this later, when she actually took on and led a lot of the different kind of Black church movement in addressing HIV and AIDS when a lot of people weren't. So I'm glad to know two of those luminaries personally that you mentioned today.
And I had the honor of, and you were there, both of you were there in Chicago in 2022 when I was ordained in divine science. And we did that at Christ Universal Temple. And it was awesome to walk down those halls knowing that that is where she walked. And she had other people show up to speak there, most notably former President Barack Obama spoke there twice.
Yep.
Now, Bishop Robert, you just got back from Chicago, did you not?
Just got back from Chicago, Bishop Durrell and I, and we were there attending what's known as the Samuel D. Proctor Conference. And that is a historical African-American, it's morphed into more of a movement now than it is a conference. And so they celebrate a lot of their ties back to Ghana, South Africa, and also a large movement here in America. And so it was great to be in Chicago. It was cold. It was cold. These people who hold conferences in the north in the wintertime is beyond me, but I don't know why they do that. But no, it was a great opportunity to be in Chicago, and a lot of history, of course, is in Chicago. I mean, with Johnny Coleman and other luminaries like that being in the Chicago area. And I will just throw this out as a side plug. I got to do a drive-by of the future Obama Library, Presidential Library in Hyde Park. And so that was kind of a treat as well. But I was appreciative to be at the conference and surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. And I forgot, Jeff, until you just mentioned that, about Bishop Barbara and her ties to Ghana as being inducted as there as well. So thank you for that
Sure.
to remind me of her connection with that as well, which is also tied really to the Proctor Conference because they do a lot of work in Africa as well.
Did you have the opportunity to pay your respects to Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed away last week?
You know, we were there until yesterday. We flew back on the conference. Did a big respect tribute to Reverend Jesse Jackson today. Actually, we're all mounting up with busloads of people to go. Actually, yesterday to view and pay respects with the Push Coalition organization. And so I didn't get a chance to do it actually, but within the conference itself, there was a lot of recognition, Reverend Jesse Jackson, for his work over the years, in Chicago, both really nationally and globally, for what he has done for so many people. And it was really interesting to see how people, I want to say, resonated or connected with his work over the years. How some was personally touched, and some was personally benefited from his, kind of global stage presence. We did get to hear and see his son speak at the conference, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, and spoke very eloquently about his dad, his work, and what it meant for him to kind of be a part of that legacy, if you will, of that generation, to watch kind of from the front row of history being made in so many different ways, from walking with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to being there with John Lewis and Al Sharpton, all these other legendaries, to kind of see it from the front seat and how that impacted his work and then the legacy work that he's going on to do. But certainly, as someone described, the work of Jesse Jackson when he dies, like, that was kind of an oak tree that fell in the forest. And when it fell, everybody heard it. Because I think that was one of those moments in history where so many people resonated with his connections to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to John Lewis, and to Rosa Parks, and to the nameless people that we don't know, to be honest. That was part of the civil rights movement. That connection for so many people, is no going to let, so the legacy lives on. And so what I was most impressed with was we got to visit the oldest AME church in Chicago, Quinn Chapel AME Church in Chicago, which is the oldest African-American church in the area. It was also a stop on the Underground Railroad. But to be in that setting for one of the worship services and to witness how people really connected to the work of the church, Quinn Chapel, to the work of the civil rights movement, and certainly to the work of Jesse Jackson as being, living in Chicago and all the impact they made, you just can't help but to feel the presence and the essence. And even if you wasn't aware of who Jesse Jackson was, you knew that something shifted in the cosmos, if you will. But yet his energy connected to something much larger that really connected people around the globe to his passing.
How wonderful, how powerful.
Yeah.
We certainly do stand on the shoulders of so many great people that practice the truth, whether they called it New Thought or not. And phenomenal. I touched lately when I saw something on television about Reverend Jesse Jackson, and that how touched he was when Barack Obama was elected as president. And that demonstrates to me that sometimes we are the seed planters, and someone else then carries that forth. And so everything that we do and every thought that we plant and what we stand for and stand up to makes a difference. The ripple effect, and it may not be seen for quite some time.
Yeah, certainly. I think, and someone alluded to that earlier, it's like, had it not been for Martin doing what Martin Luther King Jr. did, there would not have been a Jesse Jackson who did what Jesse Jackson did, even in his run for the President of the United States. And, even that galvanized a major segment of our society in a different way, that he spoke really even at that point in time across, generational, that he was able to do that, and how he elevated really a lot of people. It was really one of those moments of, I think it's called about bootstraps. He reached down and he pulled everybody up in a way that most were not able to do. And although he never became president, but I think the effects of his running for president, certainly laid the foundation for people like, former President Barack Obama, but also for people like Kamala Harris, also for people like, the Supreme Court justice that we have now from the African American community, for people who have gone like Governor Wilder. And I was reminded of that, like, really, wow, I forgot about Governor Douglas Wilder, the first African American governor for Virginia in our history. And so things like that, I think we sometimes forget how people really become, I'm going to say that like the way showers never may benefit from what they're doing, but they're paving the way for for people to come after them. And I think it's how we also resonate that energy, if you will, with New Thought or with divine
Yes.
science. There is an energy there that connects us all the way back to the very beginning of energy, if you
Yes.
will,
Yes.
to that spark, to that
Mhm.
moment in time that brings it all the way forward to our experiences today.
Mhm.
And certainly our experiences today is not the sum total of who we are as individuals. It is not the sum total of who we are around in our ministry right now. But so often we're reminded that the work that we're doing today, as I often say, what I do today is not about me. It's for those who are going to come behind me.
Mm.
So how do we take our energy, our work, our passion, our dreams, and make it a little bit easier for someone who's going to come behind us, who may have to say, I don't have to fight the same fight that they fought, but I can take this to the next level and bring us all into the universal harmony, if you will, of what society is meant to be. And right now, it may seem like that work is very hard, given where we are nationally or even globally. But I really do believe in that spark that connects us all. Uh, and I think it's that spark that reminds us that we have to continue to work for those who don't have a voice. We have to continue to work for those who feel like that they are isolated, for those who feel like that they are not able to speak up or speak out, for those who are disenfranchised on whatever level of disenfranchisement that they might feel. That's the spark that calls us to be advocates for justice. And certainly we're in Black History Month right now, and that reminds us of a lot of that kind of work that's going on. Now, around someone recently, Black History started out as one day and then 1 week and 1 month, but so much of Black history is 365 days a year. We are who we are year round, all of us. All of us, regardless of where we come from, what we do. We're that 365 days a year, and I think that part that speaks to us is a reminder that we are examples of divine light. We're examples of wholeness. We represent so much for what we may not know people are watching us for. And so I'm reminded of that spark or that energy that we carry. It radiates hope. It radiates joy. It radiates love. It radiates healing and opportunity for so many people who may realize that they may feel like, I don't know if I can get up this morning.
Yes.
I don't know if I can make it through this day, or I don't know where the next meal is going to come from, but something from our energy radiates to them that says, don't give up. And certainly there's something that Jesse Jackson was at, keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I went back and I listened quite a bit this past week to his I Am Somebody poem. And I just listened to it in different variations. It was always different every time he gave it. But that we too are reminded that we are somebody, and we are somebody's somebody, and that we are charged with giving up that energy and that hope and that what it means to somebody else. That we just can't. We're not in silos. A lot of times we want to operate as we're in, but our silos need to come down. That we can reach out, crisscross boundaries and energies and everything to really help the world see that we are connected more than we are disconnected. And when I think about that, I think about places like Ukraine. I think of places like the Caribbean with all this homophobia, Ukraine with the war that's going on right now. I think about the immigration status of people facing here in America with ICE and all this efforts and everything. From the lowest to the greatest, we really are connected to people who are on the margins in a way that nobody else can be, because we are those providers who offer hope and saying, don't give up. These days may be dark, they may be dim, but don't give up. And so we have to be the providers of hope when all else may seem dark.
Yes. Scripture says that weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yes.
And it does look pretty bleak right now, and it possibly could get even darker before it gets light. But the sun always rises; it always comes up again.
That's right. That's right. I cannot remember the entire quote right now, but Amanda Gorman wrote that, the light, basically the light is there. We are the light if only we're brave enough to be it.
Yes.
Yes. And we're being called to stand firm in courage.
Yeah.
Be courage, be encouraging,
Yeah.
and also to be the hope, and support one another when we have moments that we don't feel hopeful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was reminded of, as you said it, Joe, I was reminded of called Vacation Bibles because as a kid growing up, there was this one little song we always just think it only takes a spark to get a fire going.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes think that we are that spark, or
Yes.
we can be that spark
Yes.
that ignites someone else's reminder not to give up, as a reminder to say that hope is not lost, all is not lost, to be that reminder that as bleak as it is right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and bleakness is at different levels right now because there are some who feel that they are not in touch with what's going on. But yet we read in the press or we see in the news about where, a child is being used to be a part of race and immigration stuff and things like that. So, I mean, that is a stretch. But yet I think that unless we claim our place in this moment in time and in history, we don't know what the spark is that we're radiating to somebody else who might need hope. And I sometimes think that we forget just the little that we do. Just that spark is enough to give someone else hope. We don't need to be that spark that's seen around the world. We just need to be that spark right here, right now for somebody. It may be our neighbor, it may be that person at the grocery store or at the doctor's office, or, we don't know what that spark might be, but when that spark comes, it really is passed on to somebody else to say, I can do this because of a positive affirmation or a positive thought or something that comes from us to them that really validates and affirms their lives for what they're going through, and they're able to make it for them.
Their dignity.
Yes, certainly their dignity. As we celebrate, for me to keep resonating about the Black History Month, I look so much on the shoulders of people like Harriet Tubman,
Yes.
and studying the Underground Railroad and the churches and the people who were involved in that. It was the Quakers and people just all along that journey with all that passage and things like that. We don't forget those touchstones in history. And when I think about a lot of the work that you do and we do all together, that a lot of times we become touchstones for someone else without knowing it. And when we become a touchstone for someone else, it means that we may not always be at our best. There may be days when we are, like you say, there may be days that, like, I don't have it to give, but something inside gives out something that someone else sees hope in. And even in those moments when we don't have it to give and people can see that we don't have it to give, they see our humanity. Even in being able to see our humanity, they're able to say, you know what? It's okay. Even if someone like Jeff, George, Durrell, Robert is having a moment of humanity, it's okay for me to have my moment of humanity, but not dwell there, knowing that, as Jeff said, joy comes in the morning.
Right. That's right. That's right. And I think about the individuals that may share something that seems so out there and maybe even ridiculous. And then as time goes on and maybe we step more into that inner wisdom, we recognize, hey, maybe that isn't so far off. The idea about, new thought or, new thought belief systems, or the idea of everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Sometimes to some individuals that seems so far-fetched and wrong, but we need to stand firm. We need to stand firm and know that we're all connected.
Yeah. You mentioned I was at a conference this week. Durrell and I was at a conference, a Parker conference, and there was a quote that I want to share with you that it came from Reverend Tracy Blackman. And I don't know if you know her or not, but she's worth Googling. She's worth following. She was keeping up with it. But I was listening to one of her interviews, and Reverend Tracy Blackman said, we can't be where God was. We have to be where God is. And that just spoke to me on so many levels about we are so often trying to be in path where God was. But I
Mm,
think for me, my spirit is now saying we have to be where God is. We
mm,
have to be where that spark is. We have to be in the moment,
mhm,
in this present, and be reminded that wherever we are, God is, and all will be well. And in that moment where God is, that we may find ourselves wondering and seeking, but where God is where we are, and where God is divine light. Where God is divine hope, and God is divine presence. And so I think that Dr. Blackman reminded us that moment in time that, you know, let's find ourselves where God is versus where God was,
mm.
and that's how we can pull our presence energy to the present and also to the future, well, where it's going to be definitely needed.
And so, are you speaking to the way our belief system was, that we used to believe that God was a certain thing or a man in the sky, which we don't, to a more living, constant presence, the omnipresence?
Oh, certainly. You clocked me as we would say. You clocked me. Yes, the omnipresent of God is everywhere. I grew up Baptist, so I grew up being taught Trinitarian. The
Mm,
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and all the things that go along with being raised as a missionary Baptist. But over time, I realized that is limiting as to what God can be, or to what the omnipresence of God is.
mm,
Uh, and that belief for me trapped a God in a time and space that
mhm,
no longer existed.
mhm,
So to be present, to be absent in this body, to be present with God. I mean, that's omnipresent. That's that divine spark that I was talking about earlier. To be in the presence of God, the omnipresence of God. That wherever I am, God is, and wherever we are, God is, and that omnipresent God is present with us today. It really does allow us to deconstruct, for me, the path that I grew up with, and reconstruct the divine in a way that I had never thought of before. It's almost like one of those cases when you let the genie out of the bottle, it doesn't go back in.
it won't fit back in. That's
It won't
right.
fit back in. It's like once you understand God or divine presence of energy in a different way, you can't go back to however you thought of it before. And so that was one of my revelations. I can't go back to my childhood God. I can't go back to that childhood presence. My mind today is about, this is all energy. This is all divine. This is all God,
Mhm,
and whatever we are part of is divine energy. It's like Corinthians says, chapter 13, that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became an adult, I put away my childish things. And I
mhm,
think about it in terms of faith, or I think about it in terms of energy. That my
mhm,
energy as a child is completely different than my energy as an adult.
mhm,
My energy as an adult is much more connected to my surroundings, of being aware of how we connect with each other,
mhm.
about how we connect to the universe. And so yeah, omnipresent. You clocked me.
Well, I'm just curious.
And it always kind of, I don't find it amusing anymore. I used to, and I just kind of find it sort of sad. Um, and the people will say that they believe in God as omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, and they can even go so far as to say um, that I can understand that. Yeah, I'm one with God. Okay, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. But then something will happen, and someone will end up arguing again for their limitations,
Mm,
and just totally forgot that, I've got all those God qualities in me.
Mm.
And I think that's why I like New Thought as a philosophy and as a spiritual system, because it means that I don't have to go out and try to proselytize anybody and try to convert them to our way of thinking. If they like what they see, they can come and ask us about it. And that's where shining our light comes in, that we were talking about earlier. So,
mhm.
so let's shine our light and stop arguing for our limitations.
Yeah, and I think that, Jeff, that kind of plays into like being aware that so many people grew up where they were harmed by religion, and they're having to play those old tapes over and over again, and it's
Mhm.
a process to record over those tapes. I don't know if you remember. Jeff is too young to remember this, George. You and I probably do. You know, those old cassette tapes where you have to put cassette. Jeff is too young.
I am. I'm older than you and Durrell together. So,
but you know, it's one of I remember I had this cassette tape one time, and my brother, he had this one song on it that he loved, and I accidentally recorded over his favorite song on this cassette tape. And I think he still hates me to this day about that. But it kind of reminds me about how we can record over those old tapes and give ourselves new thought, new energy, and record over those tapes in a way that fuels us for today. You know, you can't record over a CD, but you can record over a cassette tape and allow those cassette tapes in our heads. You know, what we play as a childhood, because there are things every now and then that pops up from my childhood, my upbringing from the Baptists, and all. I mean, it pops up every now and then. And I have to remind myself, oh, let's record over that and replace it with omnipresence. Let's replace that with divine light. Let's replace it with ultimate love and divine conscience. And when I shift to that, it makes me realize that I don't have to live in the past. I can live in the present and be connected to the future. So I think, people of my generation, they have to be constantly reminded that, as you mentioned, I think it was Mary Tompkins or Johnny Coben, who was born in Centerville, Alabama. That was
Johnny Coleman.
Johnny Coleman. So Johnny Coleman was born and raised probably about an hour north of me. So we both had that same upbringing, deep south in Alabama culture. And we needed to replay those tapes. So I could appreciate how Johnny Coben probably had to rewire or reprocess or record over some of those upbringings that she had to go on to do what she did. And I think that's probably part of our process today, is that we have to be reminded that we can and give ourselves permission to record over those things that we was brought up, and it's okay. And I think that's, I think that's one of the things. You might invite me back for this talk later, that on the topic of giving ourselves permission. I don't think we give ourselves permission enough to do things like that, to record over those old tapes or to record over those old things. And sometimes we lapse back and say, this is it. But we don't realize we can record over those old tapes, those old sayings, and find ourselves that brings up to the CDs of today. And according to the CDs of today, we're kind of in a different level or different place of our spirituality of what it means to be new thought or universal thought or positive affirmation. And once we get it onto the CD, it's much easier to not lapse back to the cassette tapes.
That's right.
One of her favorite quotes that I just love, Dr. Coleman said, "I am the thinker that thinks the thought that creates the thing." And
love
so
that.
we marry that thought with the idea of giving ourselves permission to rewrite those tapes and record over them. We don't have to be subject to random thoughts. We don't have to become enslaved by them, because we are the ones in charge of them.
Exactly. I've heard that quote often. I love that quote. And I think it's one of the great reminders that we have the ability to do it.
Yes.
And we don't have to wait for someone else to give us permission to do it. That we have the ability to do it. But sometimes we have to be reminded that we have that ability to do it. That I am the thought. I am the thinker. I am. Just like Justin says, I am somebody. I am the one that can control these thoughts. I am. There is power in the I am.
Absolutely. That's our spiritual name, our identity. I am.
Yes.
That's for sure. Yes.
Well, we've got a few minutes. Do we want to take a real quick break and then come back and wrap things up?
Sure. Let's do that.
Okay. All right. Well, then, Robert, we're going to let you lead the way with that. This is Divine Science Everywhere on New Thought Media Network.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Welcome back to Divine Science Everywhere. We're having a great time today. I'm so glad that you joined us. And please do like and share Divine Science Everywhere.
When we were in the middle of our break, and I was looking at all the different sponsors of New Thought Media Network on there, it occurred to me that our topic today, tying in Black New Thought luminaries with the topic of social justice, reminded me of the religious science
Yes.
saying, they're working for a world that works for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the world's not going to work for everybody unless it works for, on every level. And that's where social justice comes in, because if there's one person who is without a justice, or who's being discriminated against, or is being hated or whatever, then it's happening to all of us because we are one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that world that works for everybody is a possibility, because we have to work for social justice in order to see it happen. But it's happening a little at a time.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
I think Martin Luther King Jr. said it best, quoted earlier, that, the injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That the moral arc is long, and we have to take a long view in working for justice, because justice doesn't just happen. We have to work for it on all levels and in all segments of our society and the world to really make it a better place for everybody. And I think that's a true hallmark of people who are forward-looking, is how do I leave this better than what I came into and what I experienced? How do I leave it better?
Mm-hmm. 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 And to remember that it is our responsibility to stand up for injustice, against it, and at the same time to do it with compassion.
Yes.
Everyone is we're responsible, we're accountable for things that we do and don't do.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have to be careful how we do it and not come from the same energy.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be accountable, and at the same time, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and compassion.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are moments where I see someone that engages in very disturbing action. And I've said more than once, I wonder what happened in their life before now to co-create that kind of reaction. And sometimes that helps me to realize that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
I'm not excusing it, and yet to understand that that's coming from a wound, a misconception about who they are spiritually, and how they perceive omnipresence.
Yeah. I think it's a reminder, we can't do everything about everything. We can't do something about everything, but we can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something is being mindful of doing what we can do.
Yes.
Not all of us are called to be on the front lines, being arrested, or not all of us called to be, if someone's running, we're not all Martin Luther King Jr., we're not all Jesse Jacksons, we're not all Mary Tompkins or Johnny Coleman. We're not all those folks, but we are called to hold our own divine self in accountability for what we can do.
Yes.
Sometimes what we can do is just raise the question.
Mm-hmm.
Hold the high watch.
Yeah. Just sometimes, sometimes lifting up the question around injustices that we may see,
Mhm.
is good enough. Because
That's
sometimes I see too many people, they don't even ask the question. But I think
mm,
we just ask the question. It's not about how I could have made a difference, but how can we do better?
mm,
Thank
mhm.
you so much for stepping in for Bishop Durrell today, Robert.
Yes,
I
Which
love
means,
yes, yes.
I love what you added to the program. Come back and do it again. And thank you for pushing the buttons and making sure that we got
Yeah,
all of our commercials and all that taken care of.
that's
excellent.
right.
Always a joy to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and friends, we really appreciate you too. So be sure to join us again every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 3 Central. And you can also watch a replay on YouTube. And there are also other fine programs, excellent programs on the New Thought Media Network on YouTube. So until next week, this is Divine Science Everywhere on New Thought Media Network.
Hi, y'all.